Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Uthai Pathanamchok, and this is Ms. Kanokpon Soisuwan. We are both professional budget analysts from Budget Strategy Office, Budget Bureau, Thailand. In today's session, we are going to present to you Thailand's budgeting at times of high inflation. I will talk about the inflation development for the first half of the slide, and then Ms. Kanopon will go through more further details about the organization related to inflation monitoring, the impact of the current situation, and then Thai's government's measures to alleviate the issue. First of all, I would like to mention about the past inflation, in which we have an average rate of 4.1% per year, but this rate is for the very long period of 60 years since 60 years, as you can see in the graph. However, the key important thing that occurred during the past 20 years is that the Bank of Thailand, or the BOT, has started conducting monetary policy under the flexible inflation targeting framework. And this is what we believe, that it plays a significant role in controlling the country's inflation rate until today. So let's go to a closer period of time frame to see what recently happened. According to this slide, it is clearly that since the use of the framework, Thailand has faced 4 periods of high inflation, in which the major factors are from rising price of foods, beverage, and transportation. This is in fact the direct and indirect impact of crude oil price, both for headline and core inflation, as the peak of the situation tends to nearly exist at the same period of time. As for the monetary policy, it is also directly correlated to these dynamic changes, but this is because the BOT tends to adjust its policy interest rate in response to the fluctuated inflation, like it happened in many countries. Even so, if we take a look at different dimensions of inflation as one of the factors to analyze the nature of the situation in the case of Thailand, it appears that the surges in the country's inflation are likely to be from the supply side and inflation expectation shocks. In another word, the cost push inflation seems to have more impact to Thai economy compared to the demand pull, even when there are some specific government interventions like the first car tax rebate regime or the minimum wage hike. As for the country comparison, especially for the recent inflation development in 2022, according to the data from the BOT as of July 2022, Thailand is among developing countries having relatively high inflation, but the rate is still lower than those of the developed countries. Additionally, the current context of our country seems to be different as well, because we are still at the recovery stage of the COVID-19 crisis. And that's why the demand pool is at relatively low level, apart from its less impact, as I mentioned earlier in the previous slide. Therefore, the major concern of the country is on cost push inflation derived from rising energy price, despite the overall low import dependency of the products in the CPI basket that helped reduce the severity of the situation. This is confirmed by the data as of July 2022 from the Ministry of Commerce, or the MOC, showing that the cost push inflation has already indirectly covered across many types of products in the CPI basket, all of which seems to be affected by the rising cost of energy price. And this might not be the peak of the situation, as some economists have projected that the gasoline price, the one that we use most in Thailand, could be as high as $1.64 per liter in 2024. Although the government can handle the situation, and we believe that the cost food inflation in the case of Thailand does not tend to last that long, a more severe impact on social and economy might occur, as many things seem to depend on the uncontrollable factor, like the energy price in the global market. So, in the next part, Ms. Kanopon will present to you the roles of the agencies that both monitor and help reduce the problem of high inflation in the case of Thailand. So, please continue.
Thank you so much, Mr. Uthai. So for the next slide, I will talk about the organization that related to dealing with the high inflation in Thailand. So there are 4 major agencies. Okay, thank you so much. So we're working both for direct and indirect perspective. So I will start with first, the Bank of Thailand, or BOT, as my colleague Mr. Uthai mentioned, is responsible for promoting monetary stability and formulating a monetary policy framework via inflation targeting by using complex type of CPI as a monetary tool to analyze the situation. In addition, they provide policy interest rate via the Monetary Policy Committee, or MPC. Meanwhile, Ministry of Commerce, or MOC, is in charge of controlling the price of basic goods and services such as food, instant noodles, or farming-related products. And the main criteria choosing the items to be strictly monitored depends on the difficulty in reproduction when the shortage period occurs. And another role of the MOC is to report the information regarding CPI basket and other indicators. And the third one is Ministry of Energy, or MOE. Its main role is to ensure the country's energy security and to control the price of the gasoline and other products. And this has been done through the Oil Fuel Fund Office, or OFFO, that has its own source of revenue, mostly from the excise tax and import tax related to the energy sector. And another last organization is the Ministry of Finance, or MOF. Its organization is responsible for subsidizing low-income and poor people through Thai state welfare card, and also the co-payment scheme, aiming to increase the consumer's purchasing power. And apart from the poverty alleviation, inflation is the factor calculated during the fiscal policy formulation, where MOF, BOT, NESDC, and the Budget of Bureau have been involved in the meeting. So moving to the next slide, the impact of the inflation on the household across different groups of people. So why high inflation would impact the cost of living for the whole population? The severity of the impact would vary across different households depending on their spending structure. For instance, the household who spend a large share of their income on energy and food would be more affected in comparison. As I mentioned earlier, that's the reason why MOF is mainly focusing on helping low income and poor people, as they are the most impacted by inflation. And this can be confirmed by the data of the BOT, as you can see the graph in the slide. It shows that on average, low-income households spend their money on food with higher proportion, almost 50%, compared to other groups. And apart from this issue of the high inflation, which occur as a result of external factors, low-income people in Thailand are also facing the challenges stemming from high level of household debt. And this is one of the difficult issues that it is getting worse because most of low income are self-employed or working in service sector, such as tourism related sector that has not yet fully recovered from the spread of COVID-19. And despite the low income group have limited purchasing power, the proportion of their consumption is only around 1/3 of the total consumption spending. And this might hold back the private consumption and the overall economic recovery in the near future. So, in order to alleviate the impact of inflation in Thailand, the government measures are classified into 4 groups. And all of the information here is based on 3 cabinet orders, including the 21st of June, the 26th of July, and the 13th of September this year, in which many measures last differently in each period of time. I will start with first, budgetary measure. Its aim is to help mitigate the effect of inflation so that people have more time to prepare themselves, especially for fragile groups. And there is the subsidization for a cooking gas price for state welfare cardholders. And the next one is for the gasoline cost reduction for public motorcycle drivers. And the last one is the discount related to fuel adjustment charge. And the second measure is the other fiscal measure. There are tax incentives on expense regarding MICE tourists, plus a large measure of government support from the COVID-19 relief emergency decree consists of cash handouts to increase the purchasing power for welfare card holders and for those who need special assistance and for the co-payment scheme. And the third one is the fuel price administration via oil fuel fund. Though the fuel fund mechanism in order to keep the price to appropriate level, the measures are such as diesel fuel price subsidy, the control of LPG gas price, and the submission of the difference in profit. And the last one is the cooperation from the public-private sector to maintain energy prices and to implement energy-saving measures. And the key important organization here is the Thai state-owned oil and energy company, or we call it PPT. And they are about the management of diesel marketing fees, the discount of LPG prices for a specific state welfare card holder, and the measure related to NGV price, such as giving taxi drivers a special price offer. So, and that's all of our presentation.